Hey, you snacks, welcome back. Hope you had a rejuvenating or at least fulfilling weekend. Today I thought we'd start off the week strong by enjoying some disturbing experiences that we are only third party to. I think I almost got abducted. I, 29 male, was out partying this Friday night with 4 of my female friends, 2 of which I have just met that evening. We were having drinks at a club in Bratislava, Slovakia in Europe. The night was going great, we were dancing and talking, all of us had fun. At around 2 a.m., the girls grabbed a taxi and went home. I have stayed a bit more in the club to finish my drink. I have danced on the stage for about 20 minutes, and then I have grabbed a taxi and went home. When I arrived on the street where I live, my drunk butt realized that I have no keys and I couldn't get home as I live alone. So I called another taxi and went back to the club to look for my keys. First, I went to the bar to ask if anybody has brought any lost keys to them that night. Unfortunately, they didn't have my keys, so I started to look for them in the club in every place that I was in that night. I have turned on the flashlight on my phone and I've been looking for the keys in a mass of people. About 10 minutes go by and I haven't found anything apart from broken glass and cigarette butts. I went back to the place where I was initially looking for them. This is the place where we have been having our drinks with the girls. I have started to look for my keys on the sitting benches instead of on the ground. I've had my keys in the inside pocket of my jacket as I always do, and my jacket was placed in the corner of that bench the whole night before I first left. Now people were sitting on the benches and they've had their jackets on the benches too. I sat down near the corner where I was sitting before, and besides me was a guy with lines of some drugs on his phone, freely giving them to other people. He had put his jacket in the corner of the bench, and I wanted to look at that corner of the bench to see if my keys have been pushed into the corner or something. So I grabbed his jacket, and to my surprise, my keys were right under his jacket, in the middle of the bench. I was so happy to find my keys. I was drunk and started pretty much yelling how happy I am to find my keys, as I was getting freaking desperate at that moment. But there was a guy on that bench that we have met with the girls before in the club. I will call him L. He was really nice during the whole night, and so I kept talking to L when I found my keys. I even went to the bar and grabbed another beer just to talk a bit more with L. I went to the toilet to have a wee, and when I came back, L had found himself an acquaintance to which he was talking to. So I just started to finish my beer while I was smoking a cigarette and getting ready to go home. This is when the guy that had lines of some drugs on his phone had started talking to me. I will call him Pedro, as it was definitely a fake name that he gave me. I was talking with him in English. Pedro was 19 years old, and he was from Colombia. He told me stories about how life is in Colombia and how his family struggles. He told me that his father has died recently and he is the oldest son. So he is in Slovakia trying to make some money for the family. He even showed me photos of him and his family back in Colombia. I sympathized with Pedro and I was feeling sorry for him. After about 20 minutes, L has scored with a girl that he met, and he said that they're going home. He asked Pedro if he has any MDMA on him, and he sold some to them. So L left with the girl. People around on the bench have seen what was happening, and so they wanted some drugs off Pedro too. So he started to make lines on his phone again. I told Pedro that I'm going home and wished him the best luck, grabbed my jacket, and started walking. This is when Pedro called out to me and stopped me, said that it's late and he should go back to the hotel too. He scratched the drugs from his phone onto the table, took his belongings, and told the people that they can finish whatever was left for free. Me and Pedro have walked out of the underground club. When we were outside, he asked me if I could walk him to his hotel, which was nearby. A 5-minute walk. He told me in the club that he has no friends and no family in Slovakia. I really sympathized with him, so I told him that sure, I could walk him to the hotel. We were talking the whole walk, and he was saying really nice things to me, like how I get his situation and how good of a person I am. When we arrived at the hotel, the door was closed, and he messaged to someone to come and open the door for him. He asked if I want to have one last beer with him, to which I said sure, but I will be on my way once we finish the beer. Some girl came and opened the door for us. They have spoken in Spanish as they greeted. The hotel itself didn't really look like a public hotel. There was a reception and stairs up, and on the left was a dining room. Pedro told me to wait for him in the dining room. This was like 5 a.m. already. So I went to the dining room and there was a girl sitting with her laptop. I greeted her with a hola and sat down. Pedro came after maybe 3 to 5 minutes with 2 opened cans of some beverage. There was a parrot and a Jack Daniels logo. The can was gold in color, I think. This is the moment that I should have gotten suspicious and not drunk from an opened can. My naive and drunk butt overlooked this fact, and I have drunk from the can. I was talking with Pedro about all the drugs drug cartels in Colombia and how is their politics screwed up. After about 10 minutes, I started to feel weird and I looked at my phone. My hands and eyes were tingling. I was quickly aware of what was happening now. I turned on the location and mobile data on my phone and I put the phone in a different pocket than I did that night. Pedro then started to ask me how I'm feeling, to which my adrenaline levels... Pedro then started to ask me how I'm feeling, to which my adrenaline levels blew up. I started to think that I'm being abducted by some Colombian human trafficking ring. My sight started to weirdly tingle and the lights were blinding me. My jaw was screwed up as I was pushing my teeth together. I have taken drugs in the past and this felt like a stimulant and a disassociative, which was really weird for me to understand. I tried to keep my voice calm and my mind present. I told Pedro that I know what is going on and I asked him why he gave me a stimulant if he needs me unconscious. Pedro's hands started to shake and he didn't answer me. The girl at the laptop has looked right at my eyes. The first time that she even moved with her body, Pedro grabbed his phone and started to write to somebody on WhatsApp. I told Pedro that they did a mistake in the dose and that I'm fine apart from having been knowingly drugged. But I think that Pedro had drugged me back in the club while I went to the toilet, which is why he quickly got up when I was leaving. Everything I said, Pedro wrote to somebody else and he always waited for an incoming message before saying anything to me. I started to talk to the girl too. Told her that I don't give a frick about what they are doing here, but I'm walking out. At one moment, I remember saying that I get what Pedro is doing, but I don't get what the girl's part was in all of this, to which I was pointing my finger at her. Pedro got a notification on his phone and he told me that he is sorry and I can go home if I want. I didn't respond to him, got my drugged butt up, and as I was walking out of the dining room, I stopped by the girl with her laptop, stared right into her eyes, and I held my right hand up in a fist bump. She looked in my eyes, gave me a fist bump, and did a weird grimace on her face. I walked to the door at the reception, which were closed. I started to kick and punch the doors while yelling, "Open the freaking door!" The receptionist did, and I walked out. My heart was pumping. My whole body was shaking. I was feeling both dizzy and awake. I ran to a main street and I was calling my mom to come and get me as fast as possible, but I didn't know where I was. I was feeling disassociated and I couldn't really apprehend to what just happened. As I got to a main street where the bus stop was, I started to feel very paranoid. There was a white Mercedes SUV that stopped right in the main road near the bus stop that I stood on. They turned off the car lights and were just standing there. I told all of this to my mom and she told me to look for a camera. So I stood right under a camera which was at the bus stop to make sure that I'm seen. I was feeling and talking weirdly, to which my mom told me to talk to her, to tell her what I can see around me. I was seeing a few people that walked to the main street. Everybody was on their phone and occasionally looking at me. One guy came close to the bus stop and I approached him while I still had my mom on the phone. I asked him, "What does he want from me?" And he was like, "I'm sorry, do I know you?" To which I said that I'm sorry. After about 10 minutes of me being on the phone with my mom, the white SUV turned on the engine and left off. My mom came by car soon after. I was walking to her car on the road, but I couldn't walk properly. I felt paranoid. Tons of adrenaline going through my body. My heart was pumping so fast, I thought I was going to have some kind of seizure. I managed to get in my mom's car. She was in her pajamas, so scared. Started to tell her everything that happened. I told her to drive around our city instead of driving me home in case they are following us. We were driving around for about an hour. Talked about what happened during the night, how the inside of that building looked and all. My jaw was going so crazy that my mom could hear it. She was really afraid for me. The whole ride, I was feeling really weird. At one point, I felt like my soul left my body. I can't really describe it. I didn't feel like myself. Like I'm not real. Lights were blinding me and my vision was blurred and tingling. Like my eyes were going up and down all the time. I didn't feel no rushes of euphoria or anything. I thought they gave me some mix of drugs. I arrived at my home at around 7:30. My mom stayed at home with me, comforting me. I tried to sleep, but I couldn't. We were talking about going to the police and also about if I'm in any kind of danger anymore. But at around 11 a.m., I finally fell asleep. During this time, my mom cleaned my apartment and my sister came to visit me. I don't know what I would do without my family. One of my girlfriends that was with me during that night came to visit me. As I talked to her, I thought that I got some kind of an episode, like schizophrenia or something. Like, why the hell would I be a target of something like this? I'm a chubby, beardy guy Why would they want to abduct me? I'm afraid of going to the police, as our police department and politics are corrupt, and they always worked with any kind of mafias as long as I can remember. They would take my testimony, start to investigate, and they would be stopped by their officials. I still don't fully believe that what happened to me was an experience with human trafficking. However, there are so many red flags of it that I can remember. Like, why would Pedro be scared after I called him out? Why would he stop talking to me unless someone sent him a message on his phone? Why would he even start to message somebody during our conversation? Why the frick would he drug me without me knowing it? But ultimately, why the frick would they let me go? So, Pedro, the two girls from the weird hotel and possibly the Colombian human trafficking ring, let's not freaking meet ever again. Ugh, yeah, man. Being a late 20s man, the age where a lot of gentlemen really struggle to actually make new friends. And this guy just happens to get one guy who turns out to be part of a human trafficking ring. Though some wonder if maybe the Pedro was just trying to hook up with you. Maybe using the drugs to make you a lot more compliant to his desires. With you having an unexpected reaction, he was actually maybe texting the dealer. Would explain why it feels more like a stimulant than something to make you unconscious. Could be very possible that you just got with someone who was a closeted creep trying to get dudes high to sleep with them. So, you know, it's weird because this comment reads like they're trying to excuse the situation, but they're also not. But another more darker theory as to why they wanted a plump older man, maybe organ harvesters. Which I don't understand. With the cost of living nowadays, I feel organ harvesters can just openly offer this to people, and many will be like, you know what, sure, take a kidney. I would like to afford rent for the next 6 months, thank you. The creepy hotel owner who thought he could. After reading many of the stories in this subreddit, it reminded me that I have one I thought I had forgotten. I'm a South American woman, but have been living in the States for about 11 years now. I first moved to Colorado when I was 21 to the small mountain town of Silverthorne. I was recruited by an exchange student program for college students in South America to come to the USA, work, and travel during the summer break in the South. Up to that point, I had never seen snow in my life, so I was extremely excited to be living in a cold, snowy place for once. I was going to be working at a very popular hotel in the town of Frisco, not too far from the hostel I was living in. The hostel itself had its own creepy stories, but I won't talk about them in details at the moment. They will be for later, perhaps. So far, I didn't know exactly what kind of job I would be doing in the hotel. All I knew was that I was supposed to show up there on a certain date and time to talk to the owner, a Ukrainian-American guy that was probably in his mid-40s back then. So I show up, introduce myself with the basic English I had at the time, and tell him I'm excited to start working there. He gives me a weird, long stare, almost as if he was analyzing me. He was a tall man with very pronounced eyebrows, so that kind of creeped me out for a second. He then showed me to the restaurant and said I would be working there as a hostess, besides delivering room service orders. I really didn't think my English was that good to be in close contact with the public back then. I thought I would be working back of house or housekeeping, but he insisted. For those who are familiar with the area, this part of Colorado is not too far from Vail, so it's needless to say things get very, very busy there during ski season, and I was dealing with customers from all over the world. That's when I also started helping out as a server during breakfast, and of course, would get lots of orders wrong by my lack of English, which made the owner very mad. I remember one time that my coworker and friend was taking a little bit longer to wipe down one of the tables when we had guests waiting to be seated, so he grabbed the towel from her hand, yelled at both of us to get out of his and stop being so damn useless, and then proceeded to throw the towel at her face. Let me just make a small note here to say that this girl was also an immigrant like me, with fantastic English and living in the country for years, but he would always try and find ways to show us how slow, dumb, or inferior we were compared to him, an American citizen. Then at night, after the pace had slowed down, he would then act all apologetic and buy us drinks at the bar, make forward comments about my appearance, and even caress my legs. I was starting to feel uncomfortable around him and would always try to not be in the same room as he was. During work hours, I would be focused on customers or talking to my coworkers, and I would never make eye contact with him if he was present. On New Year's Eve that year, there was a big incident in the hostel I lived at. I was out that night with a few coworkers, but learned later one of the residents had gotten way too high on who knows which drug and started chasing down one of my friends. also from South America, inside the hostel, while pointing a gun at him, yelling racist slurs and making death threats. He got arrested, but it was easy to say that most of the students living there no longer felt safe. While telling about the incident to one of my coworkers the next day, the big boss overheard the conversation and immediately came to check on me and make sure I was okay. I thought he was being very nice and thanked him for checking. He said I should not be staying at the hostel anymore given the circumstances and invited me to stay in one of the hotel rooms, free of charge, for the next 2 weeks while I looked for a new place. I mean, that seemed very generous of him, especially given the fact the hotel would be completely booked often since it was the peak of ski season. I accepted his offer and moved in the next day. I was so overwhelmed with happiness for finally having some privacy. I was sharing a room with 5 other girls in the hostel and for getting some extra sleep before working my breakfast shift since I was now literally living at work. That was until one night later that week where I felt extremely exhausted after being slammed in the restaurant all day and delivering orders to several rooms. I was ready to get cozy in my hotel room and go to sleep. I was off the next day. I think it was around 2 in the morning when I woke up completely groggy and noticed that my door room was open. I could see the lights in the hallway. Then I noticed the silhouette of a tall person standing inside my room and watching me sleep. I couldn't see a face, but could definitely tell it was a man. As I start realizing what's going on, I hear a metal clanking noise as if he was getting ready to take his belt off. What the hell? I yelled. That person quickly got out of my bedroom. The next day, I asked my management and my coworkers and said there was definitely someone in my room the night before. They said I was probably dreaming or someone from housekeeping must have gotten into the wrong room. Wrong room? At 2 in the morning? Housekeeping? The owner didn't comment on that case and stopped talking to me or even acknowledging my presence after that. To my relief, of course. Nothing else happened. I moved on, got a new job, a new apartment to live in, etc. About a year after my little incident, while checking the local Summit Daily News, who do I see on the front page? Him, the owner. He had been arrested the night before after getting 2 female hotel guests way too drunk at the bar and letting himself into their rooms once they had crashed for the night. They woke up and there he was, standing in the room, staring at them while getting ready to make his next move. They screamed bloody murder and called the police immediately. Was it him in my room that night? I'm 99% sure it was, but kind of relieved I didn't get to find that out. I mean, what creeps me out the most about this situation is that what about those nights I completely crashed after 1 too many drinks? You know how the altitude can affect your alcohol tolerance? And oh man, it really did it for me. I'm from the sea level and not a big drinker, but a few times I woke up with 0 memories from the night before. So the unsettling question is, was that the first time someone got in my room? And how many more guests at this hotel had this happen to them without even realizing it? And yeah, I even found the article about it. Frisco Holiday Inn owner charged with entering female guest's room. And there he is, the frowny eyebrow man, 52 years old. Now the creep here alleges that, oh no, he was just hosting a Town of Frisco event at the Sporting News Grill. He provided the women and her 2 friends free alcohol throughout the course of the night, but denied ever entering the women's room. But according to the victims, yes, they accepted free drinks from him, but he, the creep, actually invited them to join his table at the bar. And while seated at the table with the women and several unidentified patrons, the creep continually placed his hands on the victim's lower leg and back, just as the OP experienced. On at least one other occasion, he also kissed the woman's hand, according to court records. And then at about 3 a.m., the women and her 2 friends returned to their hotel rooms, where the victim and one of her friends, another woman, were staying in the same room. So yeah, there you have the 2 women in that one room. And just minutes later, they hear the doorknob to their room rattling, of which the creep enters bearing snacks and told the women he was there to check up on them. According to the court records, the women demanded he leave, which he did, but apparently that's it. He didn't so much go all the way with these girls like he did with OP, but he was clearly hoping to try and weasel his way into it. So it's a shame he didn't actually get caught with the attempts of assault that he was trying to do to OP, but either way, hopefully this will heavily tarnish the reputation of him and make him lose his business. PinkiePie has been haunting me for the past 9 years. My story starts in 2014, when I was 10 years old. I had just made a Gmail account, and it made me feel really grown up and mature. I'm thankful I didn't pick something stupid for the address, because I still use it to this day. Yeah, 10-year-olds. We really make the most stupid decisions. I mean, I didn't even like to eat peanuts back then. What was I thinking? Within my Gmail account, I created a blog blog on which I posted book reviews and recommendations because I was kind of a nerd when I was younger. I gave all my classmates the link to my blog, and I knew every single person that engaged on it because their usernames were some variation of their real name. However, one day I received a comment on a post I made from a username that I didn't recognize, PinkiePie _. They left very normal comments on my posts, and I thought maybe it was one of my classmates with a different username. I didn't think much of it, but then, about 2 years later, in 2016, I made a Roblox YouTube channel, which I have since deleted, otherwise I would have linked it here. Cringy, I know. I would record gameplay and post it onto my channel, and I gained a whopping 18 subscribers or something. But one of my subscribers, the only one that regularly commented on my videos, was called PinkiePie _. This kind of freaked me out because I had made a completely new email for this channel and hadn't told anyone about it. Roblox used to be my guilty pleasure, so I kept my channel a secret. I kept on brushing off the PinkiePie _ appearances, commenting on my videos, my blog, my friends' YouTube channels, and even on my mom's Facebook as coincidences until 2019. I was either 14 or 15 and had made my first Reddit account. This was when I was in my K-pop era. I was a regular on r/K-pop and made news-like posts about happenings in the K-pop world. One day, I made a post on K-pop like usual, and one of the comments was from a user named PinkiePie. The comment read, of course it's Karibu with the clickbait headline, and nobody questioned it because it was a fairly normal comment and that still stayed relevant to what my post was about. I clearly remember that feeling of losing my mind because this PinkiePie person had been showing up on every single social media account I ever created, ever since my very first email account. I believe that I reported the PinkiePie account and deleted my own Reddit account. I still kept tabs on PinkiePie, though, and I have the link to the post saved to this very day. And sure enough, here it is. A now deleted account, just as OP said, with what is theoretically PinkiePie's deleted comment, as some people respond to it with the reference of Koreaboo staff and, yeah, this is par for the course of her Koreaboo. Now we jump to 2020, when I was 16 years old and the pandemic had just started. At this time, I was kind of emo and angsty and insecure, as most people are, at least once in their lives. I had not made a TikTok account, even though it was all the rage, because of literally only one thing: fear of PinkiePie finding me once again. So it was at this time I discovered 4chan. 4chan's complete anonymity and my strongest weapon, the Opera browser and its VPN, led me to believe that I was 100% safe and protected, even if I was on a website that was basically full of the devil's spawn. I posted normal things, sometimes explored the NSFW side of 4chan, and mostly just enjoyed talking to strangers on the internet. One day, I was feeling especially brave and horny, so I took 3 to 4 nudes of myself with a timestamp and posted one of them on B. My post rose to the top because I had mentioned that I was Asian in the title, which I am, and obviously 4chan went crazy over that. I had lied about my real age and said that I was 18 when I was in fact still underage. I shouldn't have freaking done that. I don't even know what I was thinking. I remember receiving between 400 to 500 replies on my thread, and not all of them were nice. Still, I got a lot of compliments, which really satisfied my ego and made me feel a little better about myself. Then, as I was lurking over my thread, refreshing every 2 seconds, I saw a comment from somebody named PinkiePie. It was another generic, humorous compliment, but this one did not make me feel admired or appreciated. It made me feel sick to my stomach. This was my breaking point. I remember bursting out into tears, deleting that thread immediately, and then going into a paranoid, delusional state. I deleted all of my social media accounts, except my Gmail, powered off my phone, shut down my computer, and even disconnected the Wi-Fi. I honestly felt like I was going insane because no matter how much I tried to forget about this person, they showed up literally everywhere online. By that time, it had been around 6 years since PinkiePie first showed up. For a couple of years after that, I took a break from every type of social media entirely. I got rid of my Instagram, Snapchat, Reddit, YouTube, basically everything. If I wanted to go on a social media site, I would do it without signing in. This gave me a much needed break from PinkiePie. I never deleted my Gmail since I use it for everything. What's odd is that while PinkiePie has found me on every social media site I use, they have never once directly emailed me. I am sure they do have my email. They've just chosen to not email me. Now, finally, we get to 2023 and to present times. Sometime in early January, I decided to make a Reddit account again and mostly just lurk. I posted and commented very little, and I received no comments from PinkiePie. I believed the ordeal was finally over. But in November, a few days after my 19th birthday, I went to Japan for my cousin's wedding. I decided to make a Reddit post on r/outfits of my wedding outfit because I really liked it and wanted people to see it. Guess who commented on it? Well, to be honest, I don't know who it was. By the time I read the comment, the account that had written had already been deleted, but they wrote,
"How is Japan? Liking it more than the name of the city where you live and the name of the state where you live in the USA?"
Once again, I was in hysterics. I was and still am 99% sure that this is PinkiePie. Somebody, even if it wasn't who I thought it was, had just freaking doxed me on the internet. I reported the comment, reported the user, and once again, deleted my post and deleted my account. All I can do is run. So I've made a throwaway account to share my story because I need to get it off my chest. I haven't told a single soul. I feel unsafe all the time and have a paranoia-induced hallucinations occasionally, and I cannot explain to anyone why. I swear to the freaking gods, if PinkiePie comments on this. Now look, I scraped through all these comments for a solid 5 minutes, and no, there's no PinkiePie here, so we can be safe in that regard. That said, I was very close to making a PinkiePie account, so there was some valid help at the time. Comments suggesting to cross-post this to the RBI subs so they can clue you in on how the PP stalker keeps finding you. I'm thinking it's via your Gmail and they have access to it. But what does RBI stand for? Reddit Bureau of Investigation. Redditors sleuthing. Sometimes they find cool stuff. Sometimes it leads to the wrong person being accused of a bombing. Just a real flip of the coin, these people. To which the OP says, okay, I figured it out and posted on there. But let me tell you, friends, that ends up being the worst thing they could have done. So they come on over to the RBI, posting their woes for all to see, but it seems the people here are a bit more thorough than the OP was hoping. Are you sure you have the right post for the K-pop thread? According to this archive, that user who commented, their name was Pineglass1200. Am I looking at the wrong post? And then as they dig further, Pullpush says the OP of that thread, the K-pop one, was one Clarion for All, who has posts mentioning being 25 years old, not 19, and who seems to be male, which I don't think would get as much love for posting nudes on 4chan. OP, is there something you need to tell us? Yes, that's right, it seems the true creepiness about this isn't actually PinkiePie, but the postin' talking all about it. A 25-year-old man pretending to be a recently 19-year-old girl, ironically getting caught out by the very evidence they proposed. Granted, RBI once again is really just like a mom's Facebook group of valid skills and investigation, as in, take what they say with a grain of salt. But when all the OP says in response to all this is, I am not a 25-year-old man, that's BS, you're not really defending your case well here. I mean, these people were literally linking scraped data of internet history to find all this information, so I'm gonna give these people the benefit of the doubt more so than OP here. So there you have it. Turns out the real creeps are the friends we made along the way. Okay, friends, that ends today's video. Thank you as always for watching. Hope you enjoyed the creepy tales. And until next time, glug glug in that water or I will hunt you down. Bye bye.